Hello and good morning, students. So in the previous video we saw how governor was so particular about Evans's exam that he also asked Jackson to check McLeary's suitcase. And when Jackson checked McLeary's suitcase, he found two objectionable objects. The first was that semi-inflated rubber ring, but the reason given by McLeary was that he suffered from hemorrhoids. Second objectionable object was the paper knife, and Jackson kept it with him. It was 9:18 a.m. before the governor heard their voices again, and it was clear that the examination was going to be more than a little late in getting underway. So it was only 3 minutes late. So now McLeary, as an invigilator, is giving instructions like you get before the examination. So McLeary is asking, "You have got a watch?" Ivan said, "Yes, sir." "I'll be telling you when to start and again when you have 5 minutes left, alright?" Silence. So McLeary is telling Evans that he'll be telling time only twice, one when to begin and second when 5 minutes would be left. McLeary said there is plenty more of this writing paper, extra sheets should you need it. There is silence. Then McLeary told, "Now write the name of the paper 0211 in the top left hand corner." Silence because Evans is writing that question paper code. In the top right hand corner, write your index number 313, and in the box just below that, write your center number 271. Alright. So he's telling him all the instructions regarding paper. Right hand corner, index number 313, and center number 271. Silence, and it is 9:20 a.m. now. McLeary said, "I'm now going to." He's trying to speak something, but Evans interfered and asked, "He's not going to stay here, is he?" Who was there? It was Stephens, who was asked by the governor to sit in Evans's cell during the whole examination. Suppose you are the only student and you have two persons on you to check on you. So in this way, Evans was also feeling very awkward and he asked, "He's not going to stay here, is he?" McLeary said, "I don't know about that. Stephens then said, "Mr. Jackson has given me strict instructions too." So these instructions were given by Jackson. Ivan said, "How am I supposed to concentrate on my exam with someone breathing down my neck? Means someone checking on me so personally, so closely. Christ. Sorry, sir, I didn't mean. Means I didn't mean to say anything bad about Stephens, but I cannot concentrate on my exam if somebody is noticing me like that." The governor was listening to the whole conversation because of microphone. So the governor reached for the phone and said, "Jackson, are good. Get Stephens out of that cell. There, will you? I think we are perhaps overdoing things." So governor ordered Jackson कि Stephens को बाहर बुला लो. He thought कि हम बहुत ज़्यादा सोच रहे हैं. We are overdoing the things. Okay, and with this, now in the cell only Evans and McLeary were there. "As you wish, sir," Jackson said. The governor heard the exchanges in the cell, heard the door clang once more because Stephens had gone out, and heard McLeary announce that the examination had begun at last. It was 9:25 a.m. and there was a great calm. At 9:40 a.m., so the examination began at 9:25. It was 10 minutes late. At 9:40 a.m., just after the 15 minutes, the examinations board rang through, and the assistant secretary with special responsibility for modern languages asked to speak to the governor. Earlier, the governor had spoken to the secretary of the board, but now assistant secretary with special responsibility for modern languages wanted to speak to governor. The examination had already started, no doubt. When this thing was asked by the secretary, General said, a quarter of an hour ago, 15 minutes before." "Yes, well, there was a correction slip which some fool had forgotten to place in the examination package. Very brief. Could the governor please?" So the secretary said that he wanted to make some correction in the question papers and he wants governor to uh, tell this or to forward the call to the person who's there in the cell. "Yes, of course. I'll put you straight through to Mr. Jackson in D Wing. Hold the line a minute. So the general is transferring the call. Was this the sort of thing the governor had feared? Governor is feeling kind of scared. Is this the thing I should be afraid of? Was the phone call a fake? Some signal? Some secret message? He's doubting maybe this phone call is not from the examination board. But he could check on that immediately. Now he could listen to it from the receiver. He dialed the number of the examinations board, but heard only the staccato bleeps of a line engaged. So very smartly, to confirm that this call was from examination board, he also dialed the same number, and it was busy, engaged. But then the line was engaged, wasn't it? Yes, not very intelligent. Now this line is there that governor had checked that the line was busy, but still this action was not very intelligent on his part. So maybe this phone call was not from the examination board. We'll see it. 2 minutes later, he heard some whispered communications in the cell, and then McCleary's broad Scots voice. So now McCleary had talked on the phone about the corrections, and now he is going to ask Evans to correct it in the question paper. McCleary said, "Will you please stop writing a little while, Mr. Evans, and listen carefully? Candidates offering German 0211 should note the following correction. On page 3, line 15, the fourth word should read goldenen, not goldeny, and the whole phrase will therefore read zum goldenen loven, not zum goldeny loven." I'll repeat that. So this was the correction made. If the phone call was fake, this correction could be a secret message, and the correction was just to add n with e. Goldeny, at the place of goldeny, he would have to do it as goldenen. That was it. The governor listened and smiled. He had taken German in the sixth form himself, and he remembered all about the agreements of adjectives. And so did McCleary by the sound of things. So this Goldeny Lowen and Goldenen Lowen had something about agreement of subjectives, and governor was able to understand that yes, that this correction was all okay, and it was about agreement of adjectives because he himself had read German. For the minister's pronunciation was most impressive. So the person McCleary was so impressive in his pronunciation. But what about Evans? He possibly didn't know what an adjective was in German. He didn't know because he was not good. The phone rang again, the magistrate's court. They needed a prison van and a couple of prison officers. Remand case. And within 2 minutes, the governor was wondering whether that could be a hoax again, a fake call. There was another call, second call, and it was from the magistrate's courts, and they demanded some prison officers and a van. He told himself not to be so silly. His imagination was beginning to run riot. Run riot means to go out of control. He thought that he was over imagining the things. So he did not confirm this call from magistrate's court. Okay, the first call was confirmed, but the line was engaged. He could not talk to the examinations board. During this second call, he also felt that it could also be a fake call, but then he make himself understand that he was over imagining the things, and he did not confirm it. Now he's talking to himself, Evans. For the first quarter of an hour, Stephens had dutifully looked through the peephole at intervals of 1 minute or so, and after that, every 2 minutes. So Stephens, who was now out of the room, was looking inside after 1 minute and then after 2 minutes. At 10:45 a.m., everything was still all right as he looked through the peephole once more. It took 4 or 5 seconds, no more. So whenever Stephens was looking at Evans, it took him just 4 to 5 seconds to look at him, and then he came back to behind that door. What was the point, he is asking to himself. It was always more or less the same. Evans, his pen between his lips, sat staring straight in front of him towards the door, seeking, it seemed, some sorely needed inspiration from somewhere. So every time when Stephens looked inside the cell, Evans was never writing. He was always sitting with his pen in his lips, between his lips, and he was always staring straight at the gate. So whenever McCleary saw him, Evans was already looking at him because he was not writing anything. And opposite him, McCleary, seated slightly askew aside from the table now, his face in semi profile, his hair, as Stephens had noticed earlier as well, maturishly means not skillfully, clipped pretty closely to the scalp. His eyes behind the pebble lenses peering short sightedly at the church times. Every time Evans was sitting with the pen in his lips, and every time this person McCleary was sitting reading his book. His right index finger hooked beneath the narrow clerical collar. Every time when Stephen saw inside the cell, McCleary's right index finger was there on his collar. He did not take it down. So maybe there is some reason about that. And the fingers of the left hand and the nails meticulously manicured. His hand nails were also very beautifully manicured. And we have also seen that Evans was also very particular about his nails, slowly stroking the short black beard. The right index finger was on the collar, but the left hand finger were there on the beard. At 10:50 a.m., the receiver crackled to life, and the governor realized he had almost forgotten Evans for a few minutes. At 10:50 a.m., when there was some sound, then governor realized that he was not listening through the receiver for a while. So there was why it came to life, because there was conversation between Evans and McCleary. Evans is requesting something, said, please sir, would you mind if I put a blanket round me shoulders? Sir, it is a bit chilled in here, sir, isn't it? He just wanted to have a blanket, so he is asking from his invigilator. Evans again said, there is one on my bunk here, sir. Please let me take my blanket. McCleary permitted. He said, okay, be quick about it. So now there was slight change. Evans was covered under blanket. There was silence. At 10:51 a.m., Stephens was more than a little surprised to see a grey regulation blanket draped covered round Evans's shoulders. Stephens is very surprised, and he frowned. Frowning is a facial expression, slightly, and looked at the examinee more closely, but Evans, the pen still between his teeth, was staring just as vacantly as before. So here Stephens noticed some change, that Evans was having some kind of blanket. Blankly beneath a blanket he was not writing anything. Should Stephens report the slight irregularity? Now Stephens is in doubt. Should he tell this to Jackson? Anything at all fishy, hadn't Jackson said? Jackson had ordered him, if you find anything fishy, anything doubtful, tell me. He looked through the peephole once again, and even as he did so, Evans pulled the dirty blanket more closely to himself. When Evans noticed again, Stephens noticed again, just he was more covered with the blanket, and he was pulling it more forcefully. Was he planning a sudden Batman leap to suffocate McCleary in the blanket? Stephens is just thinking that what he is going to do with the blanket. Is he going to jump like a Batman and suffocate McCleary? Don't be daft. Then he's making himself understand. Don't be crazy. There was never any sun on this side of the prison, no heating either during the summer months, and it could get quite chilly in some of the cells. So he told himself that this part of the cell is somewhere chilly every time. So Stephens decided to revert to come back to his earlier every minute observation. So Stephen also decided that no, he was not going to tell it to Jackson, because it was very natural for him to have the blanket, because at this side there was no direct sunlight, so it could be chilly. So he ignored this, and we'll see in the future text whether this ignorance was for the benefit or some other thing. Okay, so this was it for today. Read the text, please. This chapter is long, and somewhere you will have to be very alert during this chapter. Okay, have a good day.